Hi, I'm Dex Gelfand. I'd like to talk to you about a very essential element of existence that is often misunderstood in relation to my practice and my approach and my techniques, which I call therapeutic spiritual counseling. And what I'm going to discuss with you is creation and perception. Creation and perception on the surface appear to be two different things, but creation and perception are actually one and the same. We perceive things in the way that we create them to be perceived by ourselves. I'll say that again. We create things, in fact, we create everything to be perceived and to be experienced in the way that we intend to. If you understand that, it's a complete paradigm shift in spiritual counseling because it becomes the basic principle that everything you experience, you yourself create. And if you yourself create it, there's a reason why you create it. Why would you create an undesirable condition? Ah, good question. Well, very simply, or maybe you don't think this is so simple, but we all have a variety of personas, of identities, beginning with the ones we get in experiencing our mothers and our fathers. Many others come into play as well. And we all tend to have one or two or more personas or identities that are intended to get people to let us be, leave us alone, support us, give us sympathy, love us, through which we will project a sympathetic character, somebody who's always in a certain kind of difficult or troubled condition. We can also assume that persona or identity when we experience a traumatic experience that is difficult and troubles us. And what we don't realize is in more or less automatically identifying with that traumatic experience, which is to say, identifying ourselves as the person who has that traumatic experience, we become that. And then the rule of any persona or identity that is taken on is that that persona or identity has to display the condition that makes it a distinct persona or identity, the condition that defines that particular self. And once having assumed that identity and having ourselves defined as that particular self, each identity or persona that we create, just like ourselves, is driven to continue, to persist, to survive, to live. So anytime we're in the mentality of a persona, a self that we've taken on, and we've got many of these, you see these engaged in other people, and sometimes you recognize you're doing that yourself. But that identity is imbued with a will to continue, to exist, and to survive. It's like the old saying that God created man in his own image. Well, you could consider that you are the God that creates or takes on your identities or personas, the selves that you present yourself as being in encountering different circumstances and different people. And so that persona is driven to display the conditions that define it so that that self can have life, that self can be recognized. You can be that self that you're presenting yourself as being once you're engaged in that. So any persona will create or provoke or attract or fabricate the conditions that define that persona. It's like when you see people somehow always complaining about the same story, different times and different places, but essentially the same story. The person who's always talking about how he's been mistreated or she's been mistreated by their latest partner, or has the same difficulty in any work environment with the other people. or whatever the circumstances may be. Can't have very much money, doesn't have very much money, has a lot of money, whatever it might be. So this is, in fact, a creation. We are projecting, when we're in that self, that environment, we're creating it as being what we want to perceive through that persona as being the environment that fits that persona. That's just one example of how perception and creation are the same thing. Think about that again. We perceive things in the way that we create them to be perceived by us, to fulfill some motive or desire. Now, there is such a thing as presence. Presence isn't merely being present in the moment. That's not descriptive enough. It's also accepting the presence, which is to say the live energy of now, that is radiated or projected by everybody and everything, every creator and every creation in our world. It is having that presence and recognizing our presence as being universal, as being present for all, at the same time recognizing the presence of all. Full presence is an acceptance, understanding, and recognition of the presence of self and all selves and all things. And when you can completely accept that, effortlessly have that, without projecting a way of seeing it to fit in with some attitude or personality you've taken on, that's a moment of bliss. That's a state of grace. That is being in the moment. That is full presence. It is not merely recognizing and accepting the presence of all around you, but being able to do that well enough and effortlessly enough to be part of the presence of everything. Perhaps the best way to describe full presence, absolute presence, is being a part of the presence of all things knowingly and comfortably. It's a wonderful way to be. Practice it at every opportunity. But the point to make here, or the point that I'm making, is the way you're perceiving things, if you are allowing them to have any effect on you, is the way that you're creating them to be perceived by you. Creation and perception are one and the same. It's just a matter of consciousness of our creating. I hope you find this interesting. I hope you find this enlightening. Again, I'm Dex Gelfand. For more, look me up on my website, dexsessions.com, and you can contact me through the website. Have a great day.